Tonight we hear the tale of Essie McGowan, how you curry the favor with fairy folk, and how Mad Sweeney himself came to America. And when you travel with a leprechaun, luck, like the wind, blows both ways. It's American Gods, Season 1, Episode 7, A Prayer for Mad Sweeney. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of American Gods. So of course, lots of spoilers, always. It's a review, that's what happens. Alright, so this week we are kind of taking a little step back from our regular tale, and we are hearing the story, like I said, of Essie McGowan. An interesting look into the past, and especially its connection with Mad Sweeney, and how that in some ways might curry his favor or an obligation that actually saves Laura's life. So let's dive right into things. And I have to say, first off, I love that opening scene between Jaquel and Ibis. The two of them actually seem quite, happy with their arrangements, with their particular lives, which is kind of different from a lot of the other gods that we have seen. They have much more of a content feeling, and a perfect job, really, for both of them. I mean, you have a mortuary owner that can predict the death, and his partner is a storyteller that knows the tale of everyone. So really kind of an interesting way for people to leave the world and in their own way be honored. But also what I really love the opening is the kind of old music. I mean, we got kind of the really old, like 20s, 30s there opening things up. But really a lot of the rest of the scenes are kind of have that 50s jazzy, rocky feel to them, which is really nice. It adds, in some ways, pointed music to the scenes that are going on, but in some ways it also actually offers kind of a counterpoint to the scenes, especially the sort of jaunty, jazzy tune they had when they were talking about the indentured servitude in America. And that actually is another real interesting point they bring in, because with our stories of coming to America, here we kind of have that same counterposition with our expectations. We hear a lot how, like I said, coming to America was for religious freedom, and we were starting a new life, and we were beginning new things, and all this grand and glorious stuff. Where also, by the same token, it was a dumping ground for England, to send their prisoners, their ne'er-do-wells, a sort of way of cleaning off the streets of London and England and sending their troubles far away. In some ways, not too different from Australia, which later became a penal colony. Perhaps America here was stage one in all of that. All right, let's be honest, shipping people away from the country, that's been done for a long time, so maybe not stage one. So the tale of Essie McGowan is basically our view into the world of the fairy folk, and more particularly the leprechauns, Mad Sweeney in most particular. Essie is raised with the tales of the fairy folk, how to recognize them, the different kinds, where to find them, where to be cautious, and how to do offerings in order to curry their favor. She believes in this. She grows up with the stories. As she starts to get older, she begins to tell the tales to the ones around her, and at a point she is living with a family with a very handsome young man who she gets the urge to try and connect with. So this is her first offering to the fairies, to Mad Sweeney, to get the blessings of the leprechaun. And as Sweeney later sort of mentions and brings up, luck kind of flows both ways. Yes, sometimes you get what you wish for, but it doesn't always work out the way that you think. And in fact, that is a theme that really continues a lot with any wish-making and almost any mythology. Always be careful what you wish for. For Essie, she basically sets up a love spell, I believe. Now, not that the offerings aren't totally unwarranted. Those first little scenes as she is telling the tale, there's definitely a little eye that's being put her way. So I don't think that it was entirely against will, but it is certainly against class. And while she might have successfully wooed him, his offering of betrothal was not appreciated by Mom. Quick accusation of stealing, big class situation, which is why I brought up when she says, "Did you give this to her freely?" The answer was implied in the question. She's asking for a no. To admit that you were willing to step down in this class structure that so dominated English society back then, and much of society today even, was a big no-no. So, while she got her betrothal, it didn't last, and that sent her off into prison and eventually being shipped off to America, where offerings again catch the eye of the captain. A lot of sex trade in many of these wishes. It happens with the captain, who sends back, and then later on with the warden after in jail. Sex always seems to be kind of involved in these. Though in a patriarchal society with a woman that has nothing, that is a natural offering, I suppose. But really throughout this tale, we are showing how offerings to the gods will be blessed with their favor. Failure to offer, say you get too many good things and you forget to kind of leave the milk out on the cell, the same way the luck will turn right back against you. Always when she forgets the offerings, bad things happen. When she starts to do the offerings, that's when good things happen. And she gets the warden to let her out as she met with Mad Sweeney, gets sent over to America. She's teaching the new kids as she becomes the wet nurse about offerings, even gets the man of the house there to leave sums, and that starts to get their connection. So a lot of this tale really is keeping those stories alive, maintaining those offerings. Offer to the gods will show their blessings. Renege on those offers or don't remember to do them, that luck, like the wind, will blow from good to very bad. And even when it turns good, sometimes the cost of that good luck is bad. When she does finally get married at the end in America, when she's back in the Carolinas, her husband is not alive with her for that long. He eventually succumbs to a disease. So while the blessings in some ways are for her to maintain, it's certainly not with any type of real big family unit. She always is most successful in her tale when she is by herself, remembering to keep those tales and those offerings alive. Now, while of course your leprechaun is an unseen benefactor for most of Essie's life here, she does get to encounter Sweeney twice. The first time, of course, in Newgate Prison. And I love those little kind of back and forth. I mean, in some ways, she'd already done her big offering, was saved, kind of had her big journey by herself as the freewheeling shoplifter. But that success made those offerings less often. You forget these things, and the bad luck flew her way. So as she is sitting in prison, I thought that was kind of an interesting point to have Sweeney pay her a visit. Yes, there's a big tale about a fight scene and a poor lad losing an eye, falling on a broken bottle. But I think it's really more that kind of bit of conversation, in a way a thanks, an offering of what you can do. Because even then, even though she doesn't know that it's Sweeney that she's speaking with, she is still taking the food as unfine as it is from Sweeney's warning, and putting that bit of offering out. She is still, even at that point, remembering those moments. And the fact that she then is the one, Sweeney does say there are several other, but as we can see, that she is one of the ones that offers the idea of coming to America, of changing your life, of changing things. Now, as we learn later on, Sweeney himself has had a bit of a journey from once being king to then being a bird when he ran away from the battle, and then finally being picked up by the rest of, modern mythologies. And I love, I love the comment, and ending up on a cereal box. Yeah, that's kind of how we view leprechauns right now. But Sweeney has kind of had his own journeys from high points to low points. So when he's sitting in the prison cell and he's speaking with Essie, there is that almost like, even at this point, he realizes she is making the offerings, and he is offering to himself, hey, perhaps there is a way that you could get out of this. Not Again, said after she had left the offering. So again, it's not necessarily a response to, hey, wouldn't it be a good idea to try this again? He's already starting to lay his blessings down. And the fact that she never sees him throughout all of this, I thought was also perfect, because when we get that last scene at the end when she is an old woman now sitting on her porch, hearing the voice, you can see sort of perks up her ears, almost a familiarity, before finally getting a chance to lay eyes on the leprechaun that has blessed her life the entire time. And because he is what she believes in, then at her moment of death, she is the god, she is the otherworldly figure that then offers his hand to lead her into the afterlife. Now, playing counterpoint to the story of Essie is the modern day tale of Sweeney, specifically his journeys with Laura and Salim. Well, for a short time with Salim. That doesn't last too long, which kind of bummed me out. I like the three of them together. They're kind of like, it's almost like they're doing this tourist journey through America, stopping at all the tourist traps and checking out the sights. When they make the stop at the Tatanka Ska, the big giant carving so that Salim can pray. I mean, we've got some interesting visuals going on there, because the big white buffalo is a repeating theme, of repeating vision that we've had sort of in the background of the show. We have it in Shadow's visions there at the bone orchard. We, of course, have it here. And we had it with the tale coming over from America from last week when they were talking about traveling across the Bering Strait and losing the old elephant god and being absorbed into the new. So we've got kind of a continual bit of this vision, of this imagery throughout the tale, and I think our white buffalo is going to continue to play a role in the story ahead. But here with this stop, of course, this is our separation with Salim. I love the moment where Sweeney is yelling at Wednesday's ravens. We're seeing that Wednesday is still not very happy with his travels with Laura, and we will talk about that in just a particular moment. But that upset, that interaction between him and Laura, where he finally gives up where in Wisconsin they're going, that's all that Laura needs in order to let Salim go. Why does she do that, though? Why? Because of his love for his God. When she's asking, do you love him or are you in love with him? You know, she is seeing his pursuit of going after the Jinn very much as her journey going after Shadow. She loves Shadow. That is her dedication. She is seeing that in Salim and does not want him to be suffering with whatever else that she is going. In some ways, she is starting to become a better person. She is starting to care and concern about others' ideals. So I think this is a step for her, which leads just to her and Sweeney on their little particular journey. Where we get to hear a little bit more about Sweeney's past. I mean, just that insight, the fact that he was a king, that he was going for a battle, and in prepping for this battle, he saw his own death. And wasn't real excited about doing that. So, from a king to a bird, as he says, as he fled the scene and let everything go back behind him. So that is sort of like the beginning of his particular journeys. I know there's probably a bit more within that, but let's kind of follow this on. We can see how he has fallen from a state of high grace to now being an errand boy for Wednesday, as Laura puts it. Now, when we find out, when we get the big accident, beautifully done, I gotta ask though, what did they hit with that? I mean, it was just a bunny and it was a swerve, but that truck was up and over and flying through the air before this big twist. It's a lot from just a swerve. But as we go through all of that, and Laura ends up losing the coin in that beautiful bit of shot, it was just wonderfully, marvelously done. Here we have the moment where Sweeney finally gets what he wants. He's been traveling to Kentucky to get a resurrection for Laura in order to get his coin back. That's the story that he has been telling. And when it finally comes back to it, that he doesn't need to do it, that he can just move on with his life, he does not. Why? Well, he's starting to feel a little responsible himself. And I think this all ties into, I think, whether it was the great choice of having Emily Browning playing Essie McGowan as well as Laura in this episode. Because it gives us the idea that perhaps Essie looked like Laura. That this is her memory. This is somebody She looks like somebody that spent her life giving offerings and trades and the whole luck and bits back and forth. That there was a relationship that was developed between Essie and Sweeney, to the point that, yeah, okay with everyone else, but our focus of course is on Essie, to coming to America, to coming to a new land, to leaving the land that is just in some ways kind of forgotten to him, to come to the new, which also starts to forget about him in some sort of sad, irony way. But so when we get to this point, not only is there, I think, the reflection of the memory, whether she looked like him or just reminds him of her, is one thing, but then seeing the truth that yes, it was Sweeney on Wednesday's orders that caused the accident that killed Laura in the first place. We did see that shot back in Laura's tale of the ravens following right behind, so at least we know that Wednesday was watching, but here, no, it was a lot more. This whole thing has been orchestrated. We've had some suspicion on it, but now we can see that Wednesday has been after Shadow the entire time. He orchestrated Laura's death in order to get her out of the way, which is why he doesn't want Laura popping up in Shadow's life while he drove away, while he was unhappy to hear that she had come back and was alive, and of course why Wednesday is now upset with Sweeney that he's dragging her around, because he sees what's happening. Not only is Laura alive, but I'm sure that Wednesday can figure out exactly where he's going, which could explain the bunnies. Bunnies are very much an Easter symbolism. Who is big on resurrection? Easter! Could easily be where he is expecting to find Jesus. I think that's where he's going in Kentucky. And perhaps Wednesday had a conversation with Easter to maybe stop this, which is why we had bunnies spying on them on the road and a bunny jump in front of the ice cream van in order to cause the accident. It did what it was supposed to do. It did kill Laura. But at that point, Sweeney is now affected with guilt. He is growing himself. But he doesn't like the fact that he killed her in the first place. He is regretting that choice. He's now been stuck on this journey where we're starting to see her act like an actual human being. He doesn't want to resurrect her just for the coin, and that's what we see in that moment. It is in a way to sort of make up for his own errors, to try and swing the luck back the other way. Not in a selfish manner, but as sort of a payback. As a fairy folk, he knows how scales are weighed. You got to do good and you got to do bad. You do an injustice, you got to do something to make it up. And that's where Sweeney is at this point, and why he gives back her coin, gives her back his coin, so he can continue the journey and do it right. Though after bringing her back, she was such kind of a dick to him, I think he was kind of regretting it just a little bit, almost immediately afterwards. All right, just a couple of small little bits here. One, Ibis's early appreciation of his brew, just like the monks made, saved their lives. So he comments there, because the well was poisoned. Alcohol production, of course, kills parasites, kills bacteria. And in some ways, in the old days, when access to safe filtered drinking water wasn't always readily available or couldn't always be trusted, alcohol was often the safest way to consume water in that sort of weird way. So there was a lot of drinking back in the day, and in fact in the US it was a huge thing all the way up into Prohibition, which is why that ended up coming to be. You think we drink a lot now? We drink nothing like people in the early days of America used to drink. So anyway, I just thought that was a really cool moment of how brewing saves lives. They better get to Kentucky quick, because those flies are growing around Laura there. I don't think she is going to be smelling well at all, which is probably why she was keeping the cooler on in the ice cream truck so high, much to Sweeney's chagrin. Beautiful scene also there, by the way. I love them stealing the truck, and especially how he's looking at Sweeney saying, "I'd rather have you hit me," and he's like, "No, man, you don't want her hitting you." And it's how skulls get thrown off of bodies. The quick tale of Tatanka Ska and how a year after it was born, both he and the owner were killed by lightning. Sweeney's little comments afterwards, that's why you don't lock a god in a petting zoo. think very apt. Again, we're talking about this notion of sacrifice, and here you have a God born in the world and is being kept, is not being allowed to be released into war and do their godly things. So I think for a God, all right, personal sacrifice and take out the one that's with me seems quite appropriate. Just going to be born again, right? All right, so I think that pretty much wraps things up for this week. Now, next week is the season finale, the end. It's already here. But it does look like we've got a lot of stuff that are going on. We are going to meet up with Easter. Looks like we've got some God conflicts that are going to come down and perhaps a little bit more insight into the truth behind Shadow and why he is so important to Wednesday. Cannot wait to see that. Really hoping we're going to get a big explosive finale and see some really amazing visuals. Really looking forward to it. So that is going to be it. So if you did enjoy this review, go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, comments, you know I love how much you throw them down there. Please continue to do so. Really, our conversations back and forth, they mean so much to me over the week, and you have all had some very, very kind things to say. Thank you so much. Anyway, it's great chatting with you guys. Please keep those up, comments section below. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Darren Jakes. Now, even though things are ending, you don't want to miss all the upcoming shows, right? We got Fear the Walking Dead. We got Game of Thrones starting next week. We've got Inhumans coming up in the fall. Lots of stuff. Don't miss it. And you won't if you're a subscriber. If you're not, it's easy. Just go ahead and hit my face right there, and you will become one. And I'll throw up this week's review for Fear the Walking Dead right here you can check out. All right, so that's going to be it for tonight. I am D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.